Hundreds of protesters took to the streets of Minneapolis over the weekend after a young black man was killed in a police shooting. Body cam footage shows the moment an officer shot 22-year-old Amir Locke while executing a no-knock search warrant. The shooting has reignited the controversy around no-knock searches and around the embattled Minneapolis Police Department nearly 2 years after the murder of George Floyd. NBC News correspondent Shaq Brewster has been following this story. He joins us now. Shaq, good morning to you. So first, let's walk us through what we know about the shooting and the investigation into it.
Good morning, Joe. And, there are still many questions and many things that we don't know about this investigation as it continues into this week. But what we do know is that this is a shooting that happened early Wednesday morning as the Minneapolis Police Department was executing a no-knock search warrant on an apartment that 22-year-old Amir Locke was staying in. And this was a search warrant that was at the request of the St. Paul Police Department as part of a homicide investigation that they were participating in. But Minneapolis Police Department is the one who actually executed it and elevated it to a no-knock search warrant. Now, what we do know is that warrant did not name Amir Locke, and it's unclear if he was even connected to the investigation. That's something that we're still waiting to hear from that St. Paul Police Department. But you see in that body camera video that was just shown, an officer goes in, or several officers go in, part of the SWAT team. They're unlocking the door there. They announce themselves once they're inside. An officer kicks the couch, and Locke slowly gets up, and that's when you see a gun. Now, he never fired that gun. As far as we know, he had a legal concealed carry permit, although that doesn't really matter because it's a private residence. But there's still many things we don't know about the entire situation, except that we can see most of it in that video that was provided by the Minneapolis Police Department.
So, Shaq, we know the Minneapolis Police Department currently under investigation by the Justice Department to determine whether there's a pattern of discrimination in using excessive force. With that backdrop, tell us more about some of the protests we saw this weekend. What were people saying?
And it's important to note that that investigation by the federal government, that was something that happened after the murder of George Floyd. So they have been under the scrutiny and facing pressure for some time now. And you see some of the images of the protests that we saw during the course of the weekend. One thing I should note with that is you see hundreds of people there. This is also in the frigid cold in Minneapolis. Last night, you also had protesters participating in a caravan. We did hear from the parents of Amir Locke at one of the protests. I want you to listen to what we heard from his mother.
My son Amir, who is born and raised in the Twin Cities, law-abiding citizen, did everything he was supposed to do, was raised with moral and values, loved by so many. Everybody that came in contact with him, he had a beautiful spirit and a beautiful smile. Never would I have imagined that I would be standing up here talking about the execution of my son by the Minneapolis Police Department. I should not have to be here.
His family at a protest on Saturday is calling for 22 days of peace to honor their son, who, of course, was 22 years old when he was killed on Wednesday. We also know that this investigation is now in the hands of the state prosecutor, so it'll be up to the Attorney General and his team to determine whether or not there will be charges, if he believes there should be charges.
The city also halting no-knock warrants until they can come up with a new policy. Shaq, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.